Okay, so back to what I was saying, that in production network you would want your Syslog server to be statically assigned with an IP address, or if it's via the HTTP, you would want a reservation, of course, because you don't want the IP address to change constantly. Either way, let's go and deploy that. So going on router 2, I'm not sure which one is the IP address which was assigned to test PCA. Because those IP addresses are being assigned to different DHCP client identifiers. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go on test PCA and say ipconfig to identify what is the actual IP address which was assigned to PCA. So let's go open up a command prompt and say ipconfig. And let's look at the NIC card facing the lab. And there we go, it is 172.16.96.51. That's the IP address which was leased via the DHCP with a default gateway of .2. Let's see if I can ping the default gateway just to confirm IP connectivity. And there we go, it is. So let's go on the router, which is router 2. And let's make sure we have logging on to begin with. Then I said logging constant informational. Logging. Actually, let me show you how you can disable logging. So you can say if you don't want any logs to show up on a console, you can say no logging console. So let's actually disable console logging. So I wanted the console to see no logs whatsoever. Then I want to see at the VTI lines informational level 6, at the buffer to see debugging, logging buffered. You can even configure the buffer size, optionally of course. Let's say 8192 and debugging. And logging trap informational, so towards a Syslog server, and then logging host 172.16.96.51, transport being UDP by default on port 514. Of course, you can say do show run include logging, but as I was saying at the beginning of the class, ideally show run is not a proper verification command, because you're not actually seeing show run doesn't mean that the router actually is going to behave as in show run. So you can say clear logging with this command to clear the buffer. There we go. So show logging is now going to show me that at the console level, for the console I have disabled logging. Like here we go, at the console logging is being disabled. At the VTI lines I have informational level. So this is for VTI. Monitor logging. Then at the buffer level I have debugging level enabled, and syslog level it's informational, and I'm sending all log messages to test PCA, as you can see on the default port of 514. And now if you scroll down a bit more, you're gonna see in there the log buffer, which is empty now. But of course I could say something like debug ARP, for example, and clear ARP to force a ARP refresh. And then now if you say show logging, because ARP packets should have been sent back and forth, there we go, I see in the buffer the output of my debug commands, because in the buffer I'm logging at the debugging level. But as you can see, those log messages didn't show up on the console, because at the console I have disabled logging. And likewise, those will not show up even at the VTI lines, because at the VTI lines I'm using likewise informational. Now let's go on my Syslog server and open up the Syslog server tool. I'm gonna use the start all programs, and then it is gonna be this tool, and then Syslog server, and let's say view log files. Let's send some. So because at the Syslog level I'm sending informational level messages. Currently, probably I'm not going to spend time generating level 6 messages. I could do that by, for example, putting an access with the login keyword. Let's actually do that. Conf t. Let's do that. Configure terminal and say IP access extended syslog test, and let's say permit IP any log, and apply that access list inbound on router 2's interface of gig00, and then I'm going to go on router 3 and ping router 2. I'm going to match that access list with the login keyword configured, and I'm going to generate a type 6, a level 6 informational message, which is going to be sent to all destinations where informational level is configured, which means per my configuration is going to mean syslog and VTI lines. So let's apply, before I apply that access list, let's go also on router 1 and telnet on router 2. To be able to telnet on router 2, let's put in some passwords on the VTI lines section line. Let's put a password, so I'm going to be able to telnet on the router. Password CISCO and privilege level 15, let's say. Let's go on router 1 and telnet to router 2 and authenticate with CISCO. There we go. So now let's go on router 2 and apply that access list to enforce the traffic. And I should see the log messages being sent to both the Syslog server and the VTI lines. So let's go and say interface gig00, interface gigabit 00, IP access group, the name of the ACL, inbound on my gig00 interface. Now the access list is using the any keyword. It is, there you go, one match. So I should send, this is because of the routing protocol which is matching my access list. I'm running AIGRP. So now going on my Syslog server, I should see a log message probably about AIGRP. Let's confirm that, and there we go. If I'm going to zoom in there, you're going to see that a log message was received. There you go, the top message in there, which speaks about a EIGRP packet. So the log message says IP access log, the list syslog test, permitted EIGRP from router 3's IP address of 136.1.22.3 to the multicast address of EIGRP 224.0010, and that's one packet. So this confirms that at the syslog level I'm logging informational level, because even in the log message you can see that it says six IP access log, which 6 defines the level of the message, and by default access list logging is gonna be a level of 6. But if you look on router 1, you should see no log messages at all, because as I was saying, if you want to see logging at the VTI lines, you gotta say terminal monitor. So now let's generate a new packet. Let's go on router 3 and, for example, ping router 2, which is gonna match on the ACL, and it should generate some log messages, and there we go, it showed up in here on the VTI lines now, because I have enabled the capability to see the log messages at the VTI lines. So for the VTI lines, it's one thing to configure the feature, which is logging monitor. And another thing, to be able to see the log messages while being on a VTI line session, which requires a terminal monitor command to be configured within that session. But as you can see, it says that Syslog test, that's the name of the ACL, has allowed ICMP traffic between router 3 and router 2, and that is the exact packet that I have initiated from router 3. A ping packet from router 3 to the loopback of router 2, which is 10.222. And you see in here the level of the message as being 6, which that confirms that because I'm logging at level 6 on the VTI lines and on the Syslog server, that confirms that I'm seeing the proper message at VTI lines. Likewise, if you go and look on the Syslog server, you should also see now the first line in there. You should see the Syslog message for the ICMP traffic. Let's look it up again. And there we go. It says permitted ICMP from 136.123.3 to 10.222, 1 packet. Okay. So pretty much this was it with Syslog. Let's see if there are any questions before we move on. As I was saying, for CCNA, we just speak about basic. We just introduce what tools are available and basic functionality, because otherwise behind the scenes, it's even though something like Syslog seems simple, it is actually a lot of options you can go ahead and configure with Syslog behind the scenes. So that's going to be at the CCNP level, CCIA level, but not CCNA level.